Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, Governor Jerry Brown visits San Diego to sign a controversial reform bill, and some new technology will let firefighters see through the smoke of a raging wildfire.
And telling your Facebook friends you voted is contagious. A UC San Diego research study finds vote bragging on social media significantly improves voter turnout on Election Day. We'll tell you how. KPBS Evening Edition starts now.
KPBS Evening Edition is made possible by Joan and Erwin Jacobs and by
Governor Jerry Brown was in San Diego's Barrio Logan neighborhood today to sign a bill overhauling California's $16 billion workers' compensation system. Brown says it'll save businesses money and increase benefits to workers who get sick or hurt on the job. KPBS business and environment reporter Eric Anderson joins us from the news center. Why the need for an overhaul to the workers' compensation system now, Eric?
Well, the main reason for creating this momentum for an overhaul was rising costs. Workers' comp insurance premiums have risen for 4 straight years. In just the last 2 years, the cost was up more than $4 billion. And while the cost of premiums was going up sharply, the money for benefits was actually shrinking. The governor asked labor, business, Republicans, and Democrats to craft a solution before the situation became a crisis, and they came up with this measure.
We're saving hundreds of millions of dollars for business. We're getting workers back to work faster. We're getting them the kind of medical care they need that's appropriate. So this is people coming together to make California work better. And it's not one person, it's many people. And that's the way stuff works when you get it done.
Now, the bill passed through both houses of the legislature with only 4 negative votes in each chamber. Brown says the changes are going to lift a growing burden on businesses and get more benefits to deserving workers who get hurt or sick on the job. Supporters say it does that through efficiencies and accountability.
Now, this change isn't going over well with everyone, is it?
Well, like anything else, not everyone, of course. Among the many changes implemented by the bill are measures to get rid of coverage for things that frequently wound up in court. Enhancements for psychiatric problems, sexual dysfunction, or sleep disorders are no longer part of the workers' comp coverage. And there's a new binding arbitration system to resolve disputes. Some attorneys fought the measure. They say it cuts into their ability to sue, and the trial lawyers say it would also limit the ability of chiropractors to serve as injured workers' primary doctors, and they say that the reform limits the amount of care that even the most seriously injured workers would end up getting.
KPBS business and environment reporter Eric Anderson. California State University system is making contingency plans in case the governor's tax initiative fails in November. Today, a university committee voted to raise tuition 5% in January if Proposition 30 doesn't pass. In-state graduates would pay an extra $150 a semester. Assemblyman and former San Diego mayoral candidate Nathan Fletcher crossed party lines once again today. The one-time Republican turned independent is endorsing Democrat Scott Peters in the 52nd congressional race, but so far Fletcher hasn't endorsed any of his former opponents running for San Diego mayor.
In races where I don't feel a compelling reason, I don't endorse.
Republican Brian Bilbray responded to the endorsement by calling on Peters to apologize for his role in San Diego's pension debacle. Peters was a city councilman in 2002 and voted to underfund the pension system. His campaign says he regrets the vote. San Diego City Council approved a new law to stop foreclosed homes from blighting neighborhoods. Banks could be fined if their properties fall into disrepair. Tonight, City Council will also consider a law requiring reports on neighborhood lending practices from banks doing business with the city. The mother of a boy who died after falling at the Spreckles Mansion in Coronado is asking the city to reopen the investigation. Mac Shacknai's death was ruled an accident last year. His mother, Dina, hired an expert investigator who claims it was no accident. She says he was assaulted. Days after Max's fall, his father's girlfriend was found hanging from a balcony at the mansion. Rebecca Zahao's death was ruled a suicide, but her family doesn't believe the report. September is the peak of fire season in Southern California, and it's also Fire Prevention Month. Regional leaders gathered at Montgomery Field today to promote a joint effort using new technology to better respond to fires, earthquakes, and other disasters. From an airborne video camera system that can see through smoke showing hot spots and where fire is spreading or dying down, to a mobile command center providing wireless access to the internet in remote rural areas. All this new technology is designed to improve the firefighting response in San Diego.
This could become very important also to firefighters if we find a way to get the information to them in real time, because as far as I know, the fire is not the greatest danger to the firefighters, the weather is.
Hans-Werner Braun is a researcher with UC San Diego. He's been working on a high-performance wireless network in San Diego for a dozen years.
If the wind shifts or if the wind speed picks up, they can be in real trouble. And being able to give them timely information about that could be really a lifesaver.
And for public safety, there's scores of real-time web cameras anyone can access to see what's going on from a fire, earthquake, or sudden flash flood.
1 minute you can actually walk across the river and just get your feet wet, and just a few minutes later you would have just been killed.
The city and county of San Diego, along with SDG&E and UC San Diego, will share these technologies during disasters. It's an offensive tool for first responders, but property owners must provide the defense by clearing hazardous brush and debris from around homes and businesses. The $200,000 infrared camera for CalFire was paid for with county and SDG&E funds.
It makes us better prepared in terms of that we can actually see what's going on much better than we did before. We have better cameras now. Many of the cameras, especially the ones that SDG&E provided, are near-infrared sensitive, so they can see very nicely at night.
The new technology doesn't mean we can prevent fires, but we'll have better resources to effectively respond more quickly.
Here with more on how the new Fire Eye system could offset the cost of fighting wildfires in the future, and an update on the SDG&E 2007 wildfire settlement are my guests, San Diego County Board of Supervisors Chairman Ron Roberts and Mike Nigley, COO and President of SDG&E. Thank you both for being here. Mike, how is SDG&E involved in this new fire technology?
Well, we're actually supplementing the eye in the sky that's out there with 29 additional high-resolution, high-performance cameras. They're hooked up around our Sunrise Power Link, and they have 5-mile visibility. So we take all of that data, and they have infrared capability to detect fires, and we feed that back through a system that goes through UCSD supercomputers and is allowed to be utilized by all incident commanders in the fire system.
And that's beneficial to SDG&E because you can monitor the situation as it's happening, as it starts, something like that?
Absolutely. You get a big jump start on it because then you know where it's at. We can dispatch fire crews. We have a big heli-tanker with us right now, so we can get to the spot very quickly and help prevent fires from spreading throughout San Diego County.
Obviously, timing is very important in fighting fires. Let's talk about this video system, Ron. It's part of a much bigger emergency response system.
Yeah, the situation is changing dramatically, and what we've done, we learned from 2007, and I personally learned that what we needed to do what the military has been doing, the way they've changed the battlefield, in effect, by having integrated a visual, an aerial visual with the troops on the ground. And in essence, that's what we're doing. In addition to the cameras that are on the Sunrise Towers, we also have cameras mounted on various mountaintops. We've got a whole slew of those. And we're bringing all of these systems together through the UCSD supercomputer so that the visuals, including infrared that can see through the smoke, knowing exactly where the fire is, where is it going, micro-weather stations that are deployed throughout the county. The incident commander, the guy on the ground having to say, where do I want these aerial drops? He's going to have better information than ever before.
You can see him now. Just briefly, Ron, how much is this cost up front, and how much is it going to cost to maintain?
Well, first of all, when you say there's a system in place here,
right.
There's a system of cameras. I don't have a grand number. I can tell you that the county has spent over $250 million since 2003 in creating not just these but other improvements But there's so many pieces here. Today, the camera alone was $100,000. To connect the camera and to integrate it was another $100,000. And thanks to SDG&E, the county kicked in $100,000 to acquire the camera, and SDG&E kicked in money to make that camera operational.
And we'll come back to the cost of fighting fires, but first I have to get to the SDG&E settlement that was recently announced, $6 million with the federal government. Can you explain what these claims, it's you know, from 2000,
Sure.
what are these about, basically, really briefly?
If you think about it, the U.S. Forest Service has certain lands, they're federal lands that they have jurisdiction over. So if there's a fire that goes through there, they have to fight the fire, they have to do things to protect their lands, and they are essentially billing us for that cost as they would hold us liable for a fire like that. So they're trying to recover those costs and also to offset some of the damage you might have in the environment. So we've got a settlement with them. That's the last of all the settlements that we needed with the governmental agencies, so we're now set to move forward.
Okay, and just briefly on the cost of that, the one big looming question I have to ask you out there is ratepayers, will they absorb some of that cost of these settlements?
Well, we have settled about $1.5 to $2 billion worth of settlements. We have insurance for about $1.5 billion right now, so anything above the $1.5 billion, we'll be asking ratepayers to also participate in those costs.
Continuing with the cost, Ron, let's get back to that. So having a system in place like this, having the settlement costs, things like that, in light of the budget situation in the state, how are we in San Diego County going to pay for this? Or do we have contingency plans?
Yeah,
how are
no,
we doing
do.
it?
And you know, first of all, we have a lot of partners in this. We wouldn't have been able to do this without Homeland Security. You normally think of Homeland Security as being, you know, involved with terrorists, not with the types of emergencies that we're looking at. They have given us enormous support in helping create all the software. That's a very expensive part of this whole system. Lincoln Laboratories at MIT has been doing that. We have UCSD. Now, the County Board of Supervisors just approved a grant. Actually, it'll be on our next agenda, approving a grant for funding UCSD's participation for the next year as we're working our way through this, and then we'll look at how we sustain this.
So it sounds like there's a lot of collaboration going on, and I want to have the last comment with you, Mike. You collaborate. Tell us who SDG&E is involved with as far as fire prevention and this collaborative effort to prevent fires and fight fires in the future.
Yeah, this is a tremendous collaborative effort, a technology game changer from our standpoint. We've been involved with the Red Cross, the city, the county, UCSD, San Diego State. All of the academic universities have contributed in one way or another on this, and the HP REN system, which connects the entire network. We take our 140 weather stations that we have throughout San Diego County, feed it into that, make it available on the internet, so all of that really works well. All
right, we are unfortunately out of time. We have a lot more information about this on our website. Mike with SDG&E and Ron, County Supervisors, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Last night, we told you about a Native American teenager who will likely graduate high school because of programs at a juvenile detention center in Arizona. About 80% of the kids who go through the program graduate high school. But what happens when they're released from juvenile detention? Fronteras reporter Laurel Morales brings us part 2 of her special report.
Only turn 18.
Once the kids are released home, many attend the transition school to get caught up on credits they missed. The transition counselor, John Lee, assesses the kids and helps them find their talents.
To leave this place believing that they are good at those certain things. And so I feel like it's my job to really instill hope and confidence and self-esteem. So, because I'm not going to be there all, in their lives. So they need to leave on their own with that confidence.
Sometimes Lee will make a breakthrough with kids when he opens up about his own struggles when he was their age.
I was stealing. I stole anywhere. My parents owned a grocery store. I was stealing at different stores. I was stealing from my own parents, anywhere from $1 to $100 a day. I stole thousands of dollars from them. They had filed
From your parents?
Yes, I did. They filed bankruptcy. I ran away from the cops one time. Got involved with some drugs.
Our East classroom, subjects are math and science.
It was around middle school and high school, which is a pivotal time in life, and I got connected with a church, and I met a few men that became my mentors, and they really poured their lives into mine and gave me hope and gave me the skills and the tools to succeed, and they were a huge part of my life.
This is our Bravo unit.
Detention manager Gilbert Contreras remembers that critical time when he was young.
A lot of the peers that I grew up with, are in prison and have very I think the difference for me is having those caring parents and that provided some of that structure and provided me with those boundaries and some of those values that I needed to make sure that I ended up in the same place. But I was very fortunate, very fortunate. And sometimes it's not a matter of having those skills, but just luck in that you made the right decision at the right time. And some of our kids, they made a mistake. They made a poor decision. I would say 99.9% of our kids are not bad people. They just made a poor decision. And it is my hope, and it is our staff's hope, and it is our department's hope that decision isn't something that they end up the rest of their life paying for.
Contreras and other detention staff all agree the hardest part of their job is seeing kids succeed in detention, then regress to their old ways as soon as they leave.
One thing that we have to do as adults, and what we learn with working with really troubled kids, is that change doesn't come all at once.
Brian Matsuda points to a long-term study by Emmy Werner and Ruth Smith that showed even troubled teens change. The two researchers followed the lives of 500 men and women who were born in 1955. A third were considered at risk. After tracking them into their 40s, they discover most become competent, caring adults.
Kids do grow up. Sometimes it's a long journey for some. Sometimes they do things that they're going to have to be in prison for, maybe in prison for a long time. But the great majority do grow and develop, and sometimes 18 for sure, what that great study showed, 18 doesn't mean that you're all grown up.
If only we could fast forward Jay's life to find out where he will be. Since the filming, he's been released from juvenile detention and has turned 18. Authorities have lost track of Jay, and he hasn't checked into school. They're concerned about a relapse.
That's Laurel Morales with our Fronteras Desk reporting from Flagstaff, Arizona. You can see both parts of this report on our website, kpbs.org. Some UC San Diego researchers say social networks like Facebook have significantly increased voter turnout. Peggy Pico takes a closer look at the study and how social media is changing voting habits.
The 61 million person study found the small I voted buttons on Facebook pages influenced 340,000 more people to vote in the November 2010 elections. James Fowler, professor of political science and medical genetics at UC San Diego, led this unusual study. James, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Why did you do this experiment and how did you do it?
We really wanted to know whether or not all of this hype about online social media was true. Does it affect real-world behavior? And so we collaborated actually directly with Facebook to do an experiment that involved 61 million people.
Across the states, you posted something on Facebook. We're going to pop it up so the viewers can see exactly what you posted. So what did you actually put on the Facebook page?
So we had a message that showed that today is Election Day. It showed a button that you could click on to say whether or not you voted, and it showed a counter of the number of people who had clicked on the button that day. Then we showed an alternative message that had all that as well, but it also showed faces of your friends who had clicked on the button. And then there was a third group who saw no message at all, so we could compare the behavior of the people who got the message to the people who didn't.
And the people who got, the interesting thing about this, though, is the people who got the message with the faces, that's where you really saw a difference. Tell me about that.
That's right. So the people who saw their friends' faces, we estimate that caused an additional 60,000 people to go to the polls. But even more importantly, their friends were also more likely to vote. So the friends of people who saw the message, that got an additional 280,000 people to the polls.
More so. So just by seeing your friend as opposed to seeing the little vote button actually increased people's motivation.
That's right. It was
apparently. Let's talk about the viral aspect. The important thing isn't just the people who saw this and push the buttons and say, I voted. The real potential here is the viral aspect of this. Explain that.
Right. So for every one person whose behavior was changed directly, 4 of their friends were changed. And that really points to the power of social networks. We have many friends of friends, and these things can spread and ramp up.
We are seeing a graphic of close friends. So there's a difference. So it's not just every friend. Close friends is seen here in the red dots. What was the connection between the close friends links?
This was really important. We actually did a separate study where we asked people to tell us who their real-world friends were, and then we used Facebook data to try to predict who had real face-to-face relationships. And the average person has 150 friends on Facebook today, but they only have about 10 close friends. And what we found was that all of the effect of spreading through the network was driven by the face-to-face friends, not by all the Facebook friends.
Interesting. That would be interesting politically. Now, one interesting part about this I read was there was no difference among political lines. Did that surprise you?
It did a little bit. What we found was that liberals and conservatives were both equally affected by seeing the message.
When we first ran the story we did a couple days ago on our website when your study came out, there was concern about privacy. In fact, we had one person who posted this. He said, it's a concern that the study authors could track each person who clicked the I voted button and link them to voter records, which includes names, birth dates, addresses, and party affiliation, to check if they actually voted, which was your method. How were these Facebook people identified? Was it that way? And how do you respond to privacy issues?
It wasn't exactly that way. And in fact, Facebook had exactly the same concern as the person who wrote this comment. And when we said we wanted to look at real-world behavior, they said that's fine, but we don't want to know who voted. We don't want to know who registered. So we actually used this procedure that matches groups of people in the voter record to groups of people on Facebook to preserve privacy.
So there was a privacy protection in line. And it's fair to say that voter records are public records. Anybody can find those online.
That's right. Researchers use them all the time.
Okay. How is since you've done the study, the effectiveness of social media, do you think because after doing this study, do you think it really will have an impact on the November presidential election? Certainly the candidates think so.
I'm sure it's going to change some strategy, because one of the key messages here is that if you're testing your message by seeing how people directly react to it, you're missing the whole story. The network is key. It's really those 4 friends who react that really drive the impact of anything that you're trying to do to get your supporters to the polls.
So you actually have to still have this sort of shaking hands, kissing babies, but on Facebook somehow.
That's right. It's the real-world social network that matters. That's the real fundamental message of this research.
All right. Last question here. We're running out of time. What are you going to be looking at next with this social media research?
We're really interested in 2 key questions. One is what kinds of messages are most effective, but also what kinds of people are most effective. Maybe there's some people you can get a 10-for-1 ratio or a 20-for-1 ratio, and I think those people are going to be really critical in the future campaigns.
So sort of a social science, political science research project that I'm sure many politicians will be following.
Thank you.
I hope so. All right, James Fowler, thank you so much for talking with us.
Thank you.
In tonight's Public Square, we've received quite a few responses on the web, both good and bad, to many of our recent news stories. B. Galino said our story on federal budget cuts was one-sided. He objected to the Chamber of Commerce claim that 1 out of every 4 jobs in San Diego are at risk if budget cuts go into effect. He wrote, when you do a show like this, you are functioning as the public relations arm of the Chamber of Commerce. KPBS Midday Edition host Maureen Cavanaugh responded to his comments with reference to a lengthy, nonpartisan KPBS report on the potential impact of budget cuts, especially on local industries linked to the military. She wrote, The article explains in depth San Diego's reliance on the defense industry. We welcome both criticism and compliments here. Web user Frankie said, "We should be congratulated on our coverage of the San Diego Superior Court judge's race. The community," he wrote, "needs to know how much is at stake when ideologues of any persuasion infiltrate our justice system." You can join in on these conversations or comment on any KPBS story by following us on Twitter, liking us on Facebook, or email us at publicsquare@kpbs.org.
Recapping tonight's top story, Governor Jerry Brown came to San Diego to sign a bill overhauling California's workers' compensation system. He says it saves money and streamlines the process, but some attorneys say the bill limits the ability to sue when a worker is hurt on the job. They also say it limits the type of care injured workers can receive. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. The PBS NewsHour is coming up next. Thanks for joining us. You have a great night.